Spirit, soul, body made whole. Yeah, you restore what was broke. Every piece you take control. You don't leave me how I was before. Spirit, soul, body made whole. God, you restore what was broke. Yeah, you said it, so I know every word you uphold. You said it, yeah, I know. So room.
Guys, we are on episode 6. Now, to me, this is a milestone. For you, probably it might not be. But I'm a celebrate the small steps. The small steps that I'm taking towards consistency. I'm going to make it a big deal. I am also looking forward to when we do get to that 100th episode and just make like a big celebration. 100th episode on the Soza Room kind of a thing. But if this is your first time here, you are in the Soza Room with me. And here we believe that God cares about your spirit, your mind, your body, and your story. And I am your host, Mikala. I am a licensed therapist. I have been focusing in the area of trauma for some time. And it's my passion. There are different types of trauma. And my desire is to help people walk through all of those things. Now, before we get into anything, I genuinely want to ask, how are you guys doing? Like, what's up? Have you been naming your emotions? Learning how to name them and identify them? Have you been paying attention to what's going on in your body? I hope that with all of the things that we've been talking about, it's giving you skill on building self-awareness. I know a lot has been happening in the world and it is stressful. A lot of us are probably anxious and worried. But let me just say this. In times like this, it proves to us more that we should rely on the Lord and that we should not be anxious. The Bible tells us to cast out all of our worries and cares on Him. It wouldn't mention that if we didn't have a God that was capable of handling all of these things that we're experiencing in this world. And for those of us who need this sense of clarity or direction, allow the Lord to order your step. Sometimes it's difficult because we don't know where we are standing in the entire timeline of that plan and purpose that He has for our life. But just know, regardless of where you are right now, you are still in the will of God. Okay, let's recap. So in the last episode, we looked at 3 steps to renewing the mind: examine, challenge, and change. Examine puts us in a position where we are an observer of our emotions and thoughts. We spoke a little bit about not judging the emotions or thoughts whenever we're in that space. And then the information that we have, begin to look for evidence for and against and challenge the thoughts that are on our minds. And when we spoke about change, we reference replacing that thought that once existed to something that is more equipping, something that is more fulfilling, something that will uplift you. We also spoke about using scripture to replace the old thought. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, after that next episode, I had so many directions as to where we could go next. But it didn't feel right. And I really wanted to trust the Lord as to what to talk about next. And in trying to decide like which topic that I should go with, I realized that all of them overlooked one thing. I cannot talk about change without highlighting self-compassion. Change is hard. If it was good, if it was a great experience, a lot of us would be in it. A lot of us will be doing it, but it is not. And in that season of change, we tend to be the most critical of ourselves. We want to be respected by people. We want people to treat us with kindness. But if we flip that over and focus on ourselves, there is no ounce of kindness. And if there is, it's probably like 5-10%. But most of the times, we are not kind to ourselves, especially when we're making mistakes or errors. So for this episode, it's going to be about self-compassion, but really, in the entirety of things, it's creating a safe space for yourself. Safety is a big thing, okay? It's not just physical safety, it's emotional and psychological safety. Emotional safety. Can you exist with unpleasing emotions and not be harsh with yourself? Psychological safety. The thoughts that you have towards yourself, are they the kind that edifies you, or is it the kind that tears you down? And physical safety. How are you treating your own body? How are you responding to some of the messages that your body is trying to communicate with you? Safety is an essential piece when it comes to healing and processing trauma. But before we even get to that part, when we look at the brain and the nervous system and its priority, it is to keep you safe. Everything that it does, the way that it responds, it is to keep you safe. In the relationships that we have, we become a better person. We grow in our abilities and personality because we feel safe in that environment. And even as a therapist, like, if my client does not feel safe in the room, we cannot get work done. That person has to experience emotional and psychological and physical safety in order for them to become vulnerable and be able to handle some of the difficult conversations that we'll have later down in session. You will always struggle to heal in a place where you don't feel safe. And that safety, I believe, should go two ways, not just in relationships, but also with yourself. And the way we can create that space for safety with ourselves is by practicing self-compassion. Now, I know that there are a number of you who are high achievers and you set high standards for yourself. I am that same way too. And trust me, sometimes I do get caught up in the harsh, self-critical type of thoughts whenever I fail at something. I'll say we're not perfect. Sometimes we miss it. I have to be very careful to not personalize failure and errors that I've made, because it's hard coming back from that place after some time. So if you can catch it early, then great. People who try to reach for perfection tend to be the most harsh and most self-critical of themselves. So what does creating a safe space within yourself look like? We're going to start with self-compassion. I want you to think of a time where you failed at something, or you made a mistake, or some project that you were working on did not come out the way that you expected it to. Now, I want you to try and remember how you responded in that time. Whenever we experience moments like these, our first response is not self-compassion. It is often met with criticism, shame, and harshness. And you know, one of the things that I've come to realize in my practice is that a lot of people do not know how to speak kind to themselves. Like the vocabulary to speak something good or to highlight something positive about who they are, it's hard. There is vocabulary to self-criticize and to call out all of the things that they've ever done wrong. And I tell you, the vocabulary is wide. But they struggle to find the words to build and uplift themselves. And that says a lot. That tells me a lot. It gives me a perfect picture of what happens in your headspace. It gives me insight as to your thought process when you fail at something and how you think about yourself. Life is difficult. We have many songs, we can sing many songs about how difficult life is. But what goes on inside your head can either add or reduce that pressure. I know there are some people who don't like things sugar-coated, so I'm just going to give you some tough love, okay? We are not going to find everything in life easy. We will always encounter something that is going to challenge us at some point. And yes, we can fail. Yes, we will make mistakes. But how you speak to yourself in that season determines how you handle it and how you can turn up successful on the other side of that challenge, even after failure. We are not perfect. And as much as I would love to be, I am not. The things that come our way to challenge us often stretches your capacity for growth. And if you are someone who has the goal to grow in 2026, be ready to be faced with challenges. We learn that way. I always tell my siblings, you are going to be with yourself for the rest of your life. So you might as well just learn how to deal with who you are. Learn how to exist with who you are. Learn how to be comfortable with who you are. Learn how to embrace what it feels like to be in your own skin. So what is the meaning of self-compassion? Or what does it look like? It involves treating yourself with kindness, understanding, and acceptance, much like how you would with a good friend or your bestie. Understanding is a big part of it. When we understand what another person goes through, when we're able to identify with that, it is easy for us to show empathy, compassion, and sympathy. And in that understanding, we show kindness. So let's break self-compassion into 3 parts. The first part is mindfulness, and it's going to sound very familiar with what we spoke about in the previous episode about what to do in that examination stage of renewing your mind. In mindfulness, you want to be aware of what you're feeling without judging it. So we're making space for you, the person experiencing all of the things, to understand what's going on. Create space to hold all of the painful thoughts and feelings and become aware of them. What you don't want to do is to personalize the thoughts and emotions or overly identify with them. So your first move should be, something is happening with me. I'm experiencing this. Let me understand it. Instead of, I shouldn't be feeling this way. After understanding what's going on, we want to shift over to self-kindness. So this is where we replace the harsh voice of self-criticism to one that is supportive and one that is laced with caring language. Speak to yourself in the way that you would speak to a friend that is going through that same situation that you're going through. Instead of saying, I always mess up or I'm not good at this, you can reframe that sentence and say, I'm still learning, and that's okay, because it is okay to keep learning. Showing kindness to yourself is not a form of laziness. It is not a form of weakness. And it is certainly not you lying to yourself about your ability. In the past, I used to tell myself, I have no one in my corner. There's no one around me to keep pushing me to be my best. So I have to do it for myself. I need to keep pushing myself to reach the places that I want to reach. If I don't push myself, no one will. And in me pushing myself, I'd never created room to express kindness or understanding towards the things that seem like it was out of my control. It wasn't within the sphere of my ability. The things that I told myself in that time, I thought it was encouraging. I believed it was motivating, but it wasn't. Because the thoughts that I had towards myself would not have been my choice of words towards another person. Now, with the things that you tell yourself, if you cannot tell it to someone else when they're in distress or worried, then probably you shouldn't be saying it to yourself. Now, there are studies that show that speaking to yourself in kindness increases resiliency. So people who are self-compassionate tend to bounce back quickly after setbacks. Okay. And the next part under self-compassion is accepting that we are human. We are not perfect. There's a difference between perfection and excellence, right? With perfection, it is very rigid. Perfection says, I can't mess up. Excellence says, I'm growing. Now, I want you to tell yourself those statements. And I want you to feel how different it feels in your body and notice how your nervous system responds to these sayings. Oftentimes, we take the us versus them approach in moments of setback. So we tend to look at a situation as though we are the only ones going through it. And sometimes that may not be true. If we can get to that space where we acknowledge that everyone goes through something and that you are not the only person, it removes a lot of pressure. I love group therapy for this because we all come in a space where it is safe, where it is, safe psychologically, emotionally, a space where you can be vulnerable. And when you listen to people give their stories, and you realize, I am not the only one. This other person has been dealing with this too, and this is how they dealt with it. I haven't tried that yet, so let me try it too. It gives you strength. And that kind of therapy is very effective because you get to see that on your journey to recovery, in your journey to becoming better, you are not alone. We are not superhumans. Our humanity is something that we have to come to accept, because the truth is, in this stage, in this phase, in our human capacity, we are limited. And this is something that the Lord knows very well. Okay? And because of that, there are multiple scriptures in the Bible that highlights God making himself strong in our weakness. And I'm going to go through it with you for the few that I found. 2 Corinthians 12:9 says, My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in your weakness. You guys already know, based on that first episode, that I love to look up the Greek and Hebrew words for the words that I come across in the Bible. And in this specific scripture, the word power translates to dunamis. This means power, strength, ability, and miraculous power. I would even go as far as saying it is God's divine intervention in times when we feel weak or we just don't have the strength to continue. His strength will now replace that weakness that we feel, giving us the ability to perform and do things, giving us that power to keep on going even when times get hard. Philippians 4:13, very common scripture. I can do all things through Christ who strengthened me. Isaiah 40:29. He gives power to the weak, and to those who have no might, he increases their strength. Romans 8:26. The Spirit helps us in our weakness. We don't know what we ought to pray for. Psalm 73:26. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. All of the scripture verses that we just read highlights the limitation that can be found in human and the weakness that we can experience whenever we get exhausted, whenever we meet challenges. But the fact that it mentions that God will show up in those moments of weakness means that that is a part of your humanity that God has acknowledged, and he has made himself the solution. Bible tells us that he will never leave us nor forsake us. And this lines up perfectly with this, because in times of weakness, in times where we feel like this is a setting back moment, we even tend to give up on ourselves. But God makes himself known. He's always there, but he makes himself known in that particular time in our lives. God is not applying any kind of pressure for you to be perfect. Okay? He is with you in the process. And he still wants you to depend on him. Any father would. So don't feel like you're out of place, or you shouldn't be the one to go before the Father to tell him some of the areas where you are struggling. These are the things that you want to take up in prayer. Okay. A huge part of self-compassion is self-acceptance. It is not the version where you have it all together. It is not the version where you meet every expectation. But it is as you are, accepting who you are in this very moment. Self-acceptance says, I see myself clearly and I don't turn away. It is choosing not to reject yourself for the mistakes that you make. It is choosing not to shame yourself for having struggles. It is choosing not to abandon yourself because you fell short. The hard truth is that you cannot be compassionate towards a version of yourself that you refuse to accept. I believe in everything that we have spoken about so far, this is the most difficult. This is where we struggle the most. There's a lot of tension in this area because we feel and think a particular way about ourselves. So when it comes to speaking in kindness, it's like our heart cannot receive the kind words that we're saying because internally we are overly self-critical. We push ourselves too hard, and even in times of setback or struggle, we punish ourselves because there is this piece of you that believes you deserve it, and you don't. You really don't. We learn to hate the parts of us that does not fit in with a specific narrative. For example, the world idolizes a particular body shape. And because you don't fit in that criteria, you hate the way that your body is built. But the Bible tells us that you were fearfully and wonderfully made. You are a singer. But because your voice does not sound like the artists that are being streamed these days, you stay quiet because you tell yourself that you won't get the attention that they have. So you shrink and you hate your voice. You may be struggling to speak. You may have a stutter or a lisp, but you look at some of these world-renowned speakers and you compare yourself to them. And you tell yourself that you may not be able to do what they do because of some deficiency that you may have in your ability to speak. But you are full with wisdom. But instead of working and putting in the effort to be able to be an effective communicator, it doesn't have to look like them. You decide to shut up. Sounds a little bit like Moses. We have to learn to make space for the things that we like about ourselves and even for the things that we don't like. Like I said, you are going to be with yourself for the rest of your life. So today is the day to start learning how to live in acceptance of who you are. And now self-acceptance does not mean you agree with everything you do. It also doesn't mean to accept the fact that you are maybe struggling in some places or to accept a particular limitation as it is. For a lot of people, self-acceptance mean conditions of worth. So you may think that you are valuable whenever you're successful, or you are loved if you don't mess up, or you're only accepted as long as you don't disappoint someone, or you only matter when you're needed. Self-acceptance says, even with the limitations, even with the struggles, I am still worthy. In moments where you are not proud of yourself, in moments of inconsistency, you are still worthy. And when you begin to accept yourself in that capacity, you create a safe space for yourself. You create a space to breathe. You create a space to process, a space to grow, and all of the tension and the resistance that comes with criticizing who you are, hating certain parts of you. You can put that into growing and becoming more skilled because your focus and your energy is not aimed at tearing you down. Do you know how much energy we use just to tear ourselves down? Do you know how much time that goes in ruminating on all of the things that you cannot do? This is why I hold on to this particular scripture that talks about God being a redeemer of time. Because when I look back on those times where I was heavily self-critical in times of struggle, I spent so much time just focusing on the things that I could not do instead of just inviting God in those moments of weakness, allowing Him to just give me His strength so I could do. I wish I could have that time back. But now I know better. Now I know how to hold space for me to just exist. And honestly, I won't lie to you guys. Sometimes I don't always hold space. Like even starting this podcast, there was one particular episode that I spent hours doing. And honestly, I just focused on how difficult it was for me to express myself through speaking. Because most of the times I do with my pen and paper. Whenever it comes to the speaking part, it is hard. And at that point, I just wanted to give up on my podcast. And it did take someone else to encourage me to keep me on this path, to keep me going. So we're not always gonna stick to the self-compassion part. It is preferred, but even when you forget to speak to yourself with compassion and with kindness, the moment that you catch it, change it. Self-compassion is not something that you are born with. It is something that you have to intentionally practice daily. So you want to notice how you speak to yourself. Most people don't even realize how harsh their inner voice is. But I want you to pay attention to times when you make a mistake or when you fall short or when you feel overwhelmed. What do you tell yourself? Is it what's wrong with you? Or you should have known better by now? Or here we go again. The way that you speak to yourself. Some of us even cuss ourselves out. Awareness is the first step. Because you cannot change what you do not notice. You cannot change what you are not aware of. And once you are aware of those things, all of the steps that we've taken when it comes to renewing your mind, practice those. We're applying skill to different situations. You also want to reframe the inner critic. All of the energy that you take in just speaking harsh to yourself, you can redirect that energy to noticing that inner critic voice and choosing, okay? When we're talking about things that we can and can't control, choice is one of them. You can choose what to focus on. You can choose to motivate yourself. You can choose to encourage yourself even in the struggle. Some of us have to learn to accept where we are in that time. Like I say, acceptance doesn't mean you're going to stay there forever. But we tend to have this black or white thinking. It's very rigid. It's not flexible. It's either this or that. If I am not this, then I am that. If I don't make it today, it won't happen. Self-compassion is not complacency. It is just acknowledging this is where I am, and I am committed to growing, and I will grow. You can be gracious to yourself and still keep yourself accountable. And the last thing, I want you to invite God. God doesn't speak to you in the way that your inner voice does. So in those times, ask Him, God, how do you see me right now? In this struggle, how do you think of me? In this moment of weakness, what are your thoughts towards me? And let His truth interrupt the narrative in your mind. You want your internal voice to align with His voice. And I just want to end this episode this way. In case no one told you, or in case you do not believe it, you are loved by God. Not just in the moments when you excel, not just in the moments when you do great things, but also when you feel weak, when you're exhausted. He loves you when you are tired. After Elijah had challenged the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, Jezebel had threatened his life, and we all know after that happened, Elijah ran. He ran for his life. He went into the wilderness, and in that particular space, in that room, in that cave, he experienced despair. He was tired. He was overwhelmed, emotionally overwhelmed. And God spoke to him in a small voice. God did not shame him. He fed him. He restored him. God didn't overlook what Elijah was going through. While Elijah was in that cave, he was very honest about how he felt. And God allowed a space for him to express himself. A lot of times we believe that in our struggles, in our weakness, God doesn't acknowledge those things, or He doesn't want to hear that. All He wants to see is strength. No, Elijah is just one of the many people that God has met and created space to help them come to acknowledge and accept that the time and space that they were in. And after He did that, He pulled them out of it and brought them where He needed them to be. Okay? So, go to the Lord as you are, in your weakness, in your struggles, in your greatness, in your might too. God is not threatened by anything about you. He just wants to be your Father.